Hello, I'm Dinus the Mirror.
Change of perspective tonight from New York Mayor Adams. After insisting the New York City subways are safe, today he acknowledged that passengers, and he included himself, are worried about crime underground. This after a young woman was pushed to her death. 61-year-old Simon Marshall now undergoing a psychiatric evaluation after he was charged with murder. Cops say he is homeless and has a history of mental illness. The victim, 40-year-old Michelle Go, waiting at the Times Square station Saturday morning when she was shoved in front of an approaching train. Right now, a vigil in Times Square for Ms. Go, who ironically had volunteered her free time to help the homeless. Eyewitness News reporter NJ Burkett live at the vigil for us. NJ.
Yeah, that's right, Bill. The vigil here in Times Square just getting underway now in the bitter wind chills. I'd say just over 300 people here mourning Michelle Go, mourning her memory, honoring her memory, and demanding justice. And as you said, there was the mayor's sudden shift today from sympathy to empathy when it comes to safety in the subway.
Many riders say they no longer feel safe taking the New York City transit system. Tonight, Mayor Adams admits they have a point.
They don't feel that way now. I don't feel that way when I take the train every day or when I'm moving throughout our transportation system.
The mayor's stunning confession that even he does not feel safe using his own city's public transit comes just 3 days after Michelle Go was killed in Times Square, shoved into the path of a 40-ton subway train at 9:30 in the morning on Saturday. 61-year-old Simon Marshall confessed shortly after his arrest while proclaiming himself God. Investigators say he is homeless and emotionally disturbed with several prior arrests. But in the hours after
the manhunt is over for the suspect wanted in the brutal slaying of a young woman working at an upscale furniture store in Los Angeles. A Good Samaritan recognized him from images, including this surveillance video. The person called authorities, and it turns out the suspect is well known to police because he has a lengthy list of arrests on both sides of the country. Jim Murray now with details.
The homeless man wanted in the stabbing death of UCLA grad student Brianna Kupfer is under arrest. Police reportedly got their break in the case after a citizen recognized the suspect from the wanted poster and called the cops. He was found at a bus stop in Pasadena, California, 12 miles from where police say he brutally stabbed to death 24-year-old Brianna. Suspected killer Sean Laval Smith has a rap sheet filled with at least 11 arrests in North and South Carolina and Los Angeles.
Today, black and purple bunting was hung outside the 32nd precinct where both officers were stationed. The NYPD is mourning the loss of 22-year-old Jason Rivera. He was shot and killed while responding to a domestic violence call at an apartment. 27-year-old officer Wilbert Mora is fighting for his life at the hospital after police say he was shot by the same suspect. And as the investigation into that deadly shooting continues, tonight we're learning more about the suspect, LaShawn McNeil, and potential motives. CBS 2's Thalia Perez reports from Harlem Hospital.
Police say they haven't spoken to the suspect yet as he recovers from surgery, but they have gathered information from his mother and from his social media. Police are still piecing together what took place moments before the suspect opened fire, killing 22-year-old officer Jason Rivera and leaving 27-year-old officer Wilbert Mora clinging to life. The suspect's mother told police that she recently had a medical procedure and the suspect was in town from Baltimore to help her out. Police say when cops arrived at the West 135th Street apartment, she and another child were in the living room while the suspect was in the rear bedroom and not visible. Police recovered a gun at the scene and believe it was purchased.
Developing right now at 6:30, Atlanta police working to track down the person who fired the shots that killed a 6-month-old baby.
Yeah, this is really just an unthinkable tragedy. Our Rebecca Schramm is live this morning at police headquarters. That baby, I mean, just caught in the crossfire of a shootout. It seems like that's what happened.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Revere and Rob, good morning to you. Police vowed to work through the night. I just checked. I've been checking all morning. So far, no update as to whether they've been able to track down the shooters. Here's what we know. It was about 3 o'clock yesterday when this happened. Police responded to a food mart on Anderson Avenue in northwest Atlanta. They quickly realized a stray bullet from a gun battle had struck a child who was in a car. Apparently, the car was driving past that location. The 6-month-old baby was taken to the hospital but did not survive. This is the third child shot in the city of Atlanta already this year. On January 12th, a 1-year-old was shot and killed by another child who found an unsecured gun in a home on Harwell Road. And last week, a 5-year-old was grazed by a bullet on Campbellton Road. As for this shooting, people who heard the gunfire can hardly believe how the violence is affecting this city.
I heard da 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 ba ba ba.
And the city's new mayor, Andre Dickens, vowed to make sure that Atlanta police work.
Senator Booker and Congresswoman Karen Bass spent months trying to work out a deal with Republican Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina after the House passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act back in March. But after Scott rejected the Democrats' latest scaled-down proposal Tuesday, that was apparently the end of the road. I'm joined now by Sharita Tate. Sharita is George Floyd's cousin. She is also president of the George Floyd Foundation. Viewers and listeners on Sirius Satellite Radio might recall that the police reform bill that just collapsed was named after George Floyd. And Sharita, you and I talked after George's death. We talked right after Derek Chauvin was convicted for killing him. You've been very vocal on the issue of police reform. When you heard that negotiations had collapsed, what did you think?
Well, totally disappointed. I mean, we were just extremely disappointed at this point because, as you know, since March, we've been optimistic, that as long as there was some sort of conversation going on that we could get this bill passed. And now they're just at a place where it's like, I feel like the president needs to step in and do what needs to happen to make this law come into play.
You mentioned the president. The White House says that he might have to take executive action on police reform now. Anything specific that you'd like to see the president do?
I don't have anything specific. I just feel like that, we've been very patient, as everyone else has, watching this process kind of play out. And to just see it come to a screeching halt on yesterday, it just seems at this point, the only way that we can see any real change take place is if the president steps in. So for me, it's just that whatever it is that he can do to make sure that a change truly happens, I think he should do it.
Senator Booker, Sharita, tried to explain why he walked away from the negotiations. He says that they weren't making progress. They just Republicans kept trying to water down the proposal. He said he was getting to the point where he couldn't look families in the eye and tell them they were addressing issues that, quote, put your family member in harm's way. How do you feel about Senator Booker's reasoning?
Well, I'm in agreement with that because I think when we spoke earlier, I talked about the fact that we were, in part, were good with, continuing to wait because we wanted a bill that was not watered down or something that had some true substance and truly held policemen accountable. So I think that's, as we were waiting for that to happen, it's kind of like maybe they can come to some sort of reach an agreement that would not water it down to a place where the policemen still weren't being held accountable, that we just had sort of a ceremonial bill, if you will. So I'm in agreement with that. If you're at a place where you're going to pass something that really isn't truly going to hold the officers accountable, then what's the point?
You said on Wednesday that you were feeling, quote, pessimistically optimistic about police reform. Is that still the case?
I'm leaning more towards just being pessimistic at this point. There really hasn't been much shift from when we had the initial conversation where my position was pessimistically optimistic. And so at this point, I think we just really need to see a change.
Do you think that all parties involved were acting in good faith? Do you think that they were sincerely negotiating, or do you think that they were just, as my grandma would say, just going through the motions?
Well, I would like to think that everybody involved, had at least some interest in making sure something truly positive came out of this. So I would say I think that there was good intent. But at this point, we need to get past that and move to a place where we see some real action.
Sharita Tate. We'll leave it there this time. Sharita Tate, of course, George Floyd's cousin and president of the George Floyd Foundation. Thank you, ma'am. Talk soon. Right now,
I want you guys to really listen to this last segment where George Floyd's cousin was being interviewed on MSNBC. She said it out of her mouth that Cory Booker quit when it came to negotiating with the Republican Party when it came to the George Floyd bill, the police reform bill. He quit. Now, it was crazy. Black people were the loudest when it came to saving the Democratic Party. Black people bragged and boasted and canceled other people. Literally, black people, if you did not vote for the Democratic Party, if you said you were voting for Trump, or even if you said you were sitting this out, black people were the loudest in regards to they're going to cancel you, block you, and not support you. But the people who black people bragged about saving, the party that black people bragged about saving, quit on black people. Not my words, George Floyd's cousin's words. Where's Biden? No executive order, no nothing. Guys, you just have to understand. Not me, but you were the loudest and wrongest when it came to this past election. And you could really forget the George Floyd bill because violence in these communities, in these cities, are out of control. So you want to reform the police. You want to give the police less protection and resources when our communities are out of control. What I'm saying is the George Floyd bill is not going to happen. It's not. And the party who you guys were the loudest for, who you guys defended, who you protected, who you went to war over or war for, the party that you canceled your family and your friends over, they quit on you. And this is not me saying that. Your politician said that. Your Democratic politician said that. You guys got played. The George Floyd bill is not happening, and the Voting Rights Act bill is not going to happen. And I want you guys to pay close attention. These people are not going to fight for you in the same manner that you fought for them. It's not going to happen. Again, Cory Booker said he quit. He quit. And the excuse was, well, the Republican Party wasn't going to bend and they weren't willing to properly negotiate it. No, you quit. You quit. And if Joe Biden really wanted to do something, he could. He could pass an executive order, as you heard in the interview. Trump was passing executive order after executive order after executive order. He was going to war for whatever he wanted. Meanwhile, the party who you guys saved, they're not going for war. They're not going to war for you. Oh well. Guys, like, share, and subscribe. And like I said, this George Floyd bill is not going to happen. Peace.